Like I said, my name is Tanya Fluke. I'm with the Office of Career and Technical Education, and this session is for setting up the KTS Data Exchange on the high school side. I start off all of my sessions by pointing you to the KTS Data Exchange webpage, and you can get to that easily by actually Googling the Kentucky Department of Education website. Once you Google the website, let's see, I want to just make sure that I get everybody muted. Okay, if you have any questions during the session, you can unmute yourself or you can type your question into the chat area and I'll be checking that periodically. Okay, moving along. Once you get to the Kentucky Department of Education website, you can get to the KTS Data Exchange page by going under District Support, but I think that it's easier if you just go to the top right-hand corner, search box, and type in KTS Data Exchange, and that'll take you to it in a quicker way. So it'll bring up the search results, and then just click on that top search result, and that will take you directly to the KTS Data Exchange webpage here. And from here, you can bookmark, save it to your favorites, whatever you need to do to be able to get back to this page quickly, because this page has a lot of great information concerning the KTS Data Exchange, and you're going to need it, especially if you're brand new and you're just starting to learn how to set things up properly. So going over the KTS Data Exchange webpage down the center, I'm going to just kind of go through a few things. The KTS Data Exchange was developed about 8 years ago. It is a secured transfer of student data from the student's home high school to the student's technical school, and it allows the technical school to be able to operate as an independent school as far as data goes. And then once the technical school has grades that they have populated for students, then the KTS Data Exchange allows those grades to actually sync back to the high school, so the high school can use those for report cards, progress reports, athletic and activity eligibility. So what the KTS Data Exchange actually does is it connects between the two databases, the high school database and the technical school database, through the proper setup of course masters. And I'm going to go over how that works here in just a couple minutes. As we scroll on down in the middle of the page, there is a link that goes directly to my YouTube channel that has prior recorded trainings that are listed there. Any trainings that I've previously conducted that have been quality recordings have been uploaded here on this page for you to go back and reference at a later date. Infinite Campus also offers tutorials on their community page, but they don't have anything as far as specific to the KTS Data Exchange. Their information is strictly going to be regarding Infinite Campus. So scrolling back up, on the right-hand side under System Administrator Setup, this is where you're going to find all of the pertinent documentation that you'll need for setting things up for the KTS Data Exchange. So I'm going to start by going to this data flow chart right here, just to give you a visual idea of how the data flows between the schools. Hopefully you all are able to see this effectively. So what syncs from the student's home high school to the student's technical school is demographic, enrollment data, schedule information. Also, we have special education data, health data, free and reduced lunch data, gifted and talented data. Certain legal flags will sync, specifically the legal flags, the health flags, certain flags will sync with the KTS Data Exchange. If they are state-owned flags, they'll sync. Trying to think what other data syncs, but what does not sync with the KTS Data Exchange, and it's important to know, is behavior data. Behavior data does not sync. Another thing that does not sync is emergency contact data. Now, as far as demographics goes, it will sync student household information. So if the parent and the other kids or whatever are in the household, that information will sync. But if it is an emergency contact, someone is outside of the household, that information does not sync with the KTS Data Exchange. What actually syncs back from the technical school to the high school is posted grades. And we'll get into that a little bit more later, but you also see that real-time attendance reporting, that is a report that can be run on both the home high school side and the technical school side in order to show real-time attendance as it has been entered in the database. So attendance does not sync with the KTS Data Exchange in the way that you would think that it would sync. There is an optional unknown attendance syncing feature that is available with the KTS Data Exchange, but I would get into discussion about the unknown attendance sync at a training that I'm going to be conducting next week, specific for high school schedulers. So, but other than that, the only thing as far as attendance goes is a real-time attendance report. Okay, questions about the data that syncs? Okay, so the next document that I'm going to go to is the course creation flowchart. This, like I said, is another visual to kind of give you an idea of how the courses facilitate a sync of the actual student data. As I said earlier, the KTS Data Exchange syncs data hinged on school course masters. And so how it actually works is the KTS Data Exchange is actually initiated on the technical school side. It starts on the technical school side when the technical school pulls in a course from a specific course catalog and sets it up according to the directions. And then once they do that, that triggers the KTS Data Exchange that night to take a look at that brand new course that's been created in the sections. And that is what actually starts the whole KTS Data Exchange process. So what will happen is like I said, on the technical school side, the technical school pulls the course in. They'll create however many sections that they need from that off of that course in order to develop their master schedule on the technical school side. Now, the KTS Data Exchange runs every night on a nightly basis, 7 days a week, and it starts around 10 o'clock p.m. and it runs until, and that's Eastern time, and it runs until around 5 o'clock the next morning. It's a huge transfer of data, and it takes a lot of time. And so that's one of the reasons why the the data does not sync instantaneously throughout the day, because if we did a syncing process that would occur during the day, it would lag. It would make all your Oz databases lag tremendously. So there is no way to sync information in real time as far as that goes. So what we have to do is sync on a nightly basis. So, oops, no, I don't want to do that. Looks like I've got another person coming. Okay. Okay, so while that person is joining, I'm going to continue on with this. I don't know why it's taking so long for this person to join in. That's strange. Let's try it again. I'm not sure what's going on here, so hopefully this person will be able to join us soon. So going back to the explanation of this. So when the KTS Data Exchange recognizes that a course and sections have been created on the technical school side, it will grab each section on the technical school side and pull it over to the high school into a special catalog at the high school side. So what happens is each section on the technical school side turns into its own independent course master once it syncs over to the high school side in the high school catalog. So when the high school, the next day, when the high school goes in to retrieve and pull in and set these courses up, they will log in and they will follow the directions. You will follow the directions on the high schools for the high school side, and you will pull each independent course master in. But just realize that each course master that you pull in on the high school side is actually its own section back on the technical school side. So it's important to keep that in your mind that, let me see, hopefully they'll be able to come back in. I don't know why they're having problems getting in, but okay. So, so when, like I said, when the section comes over, the high school goes to the catalog and it pulls the course master into the high school side and sets up one section with that course master. The reason why you're only setting up one section to this course on the high school side is because, like I said a minute ago, this course is its own independent section back on the high school side or the technical school side. So you wouldn't want to add multiple sections. It will confuse the database. It won't know which group of kids to send back. So the high school sets this course up, adds the one section, adds students to the roster, and then the KTS Data Exchange then will run again that night, and it will notice, hey, we've got kids sitting in a new roster. We're going to grab these kids and sync their demographic information back to the technical school into the section where it needs to go. And then the next morning, the technical school has the student rosters with the student information that they need in order to function. And then from there, the teachers can actually log into their grade books and give the kids grades and so forth and so on. So that's how the KTS Data Exchange actually works. So this section becomes its own course, sync into the high school pulls it in, high school creates a section, high school adds students. Next night, KTS Data Exchange syncs that student information back to the section. Same thing for this section. Once the technical school creates this section, it syncs over to the high school that night with the KTS Data Exchange. The next morning, the high school can pull that course in, create one section, add students to the roster. That night, the KTS Data Exchange will take that student information and sync it back to the technical school database. Does anybody have any questions about that process in a nutshell? So I'm going to go ahead and show you more information about how this works and how it looks, but I just wanted to see if you all had any questions at the moment. One thing that I wanted to make sure that you understand is that on the technical school side, the course that is pulled in is always a 6-digit state course code. That's what's in the catalog on the technical school side. But when it syncs, when the section syncs to the high school side, it syncs to you on the high school side as a 13-digit course code. That 13-digit course code contains prefix and some suffixes that uniquely identify that course. And we'll get into what that looks like here in just a second. But if there are no questions about that, I'm going to move on. And now we're going to take a look. The next document that I'm going to show you is the KTS Tech School ID Numbers document. Okay. I need to update this document. I need to write a note to remind myself to update this document because this document has every school that that is a part of the KTS Data Exchange except for Estill. I haven't added Estill in there. Estill actually will go right here. Estill County ATC. And then you'll see that their Tech ID number is 60. Excuse me. So the importance of the Tech ID numbers, every technical school has its own unique Tech ID number that is a part of the actual course number, that 13-digit course number that is used in the KTS Data Exchange. So if, let's see, we've got Estill on here, we have Floyd County on here. So if you are a Floyd County person, your Tech ID number would be 1616. And so you can go back, if you forget what your Tech ID number is, you could go back and reference this document and it will tell you, but just make sure that you know Estill is 60. So the 60 will be the first 2 digits of the course code, right? That is absolutely correct. So it's important that whatever courses you pull in for Estill, that you pull in courses that start with 60. So if you accidentally pull in a course that starts with a 59, you're pulling in an iLead Academy course. And then what happens is if you add students to a roster for a course that starts with 59, your student demographic information then will sync to iLead Academy, and you don't want that. That's a FERPA violation, so you want to keep your student data syncing to the correct technical school. So that's why it's important to make sure you pull in the correct course numbers. Good question. Any other questions about that? So we're going to explain what the course codes are broken down into, what they look like, excuse me. Once again, under System Administrator Setup, explanation of course codes. That's the document we're going to look at now. And this just kind of breaks the course code down a little bit. This is the courses that pull in over on the high school side. They come over to you as a 13-digit number. The first 2 numbers are going to be your Tech School ID number, like what we just talked about a second ago. And that's the first segment of numbers. The next segment is your 6-digit state course code. So whatever the technical school has pulled in on their side, that's what number is actually going to populate here. The next segment is a course indicator. It's either going to be a P that's going to be listed here or an X. The reasoning behind the P or the X, it's kind of a little bit of a long story, but basically the P came about as a representative of the numbers subsequent after the P represent the period location that the technical school has this section in. And then the reason why the X came about is because we needed to offer more variability for our technical schools when it came to scheduling, because each of these numbers has to be unique. And so we introduced duplicate course numbers, but we had to have a way to make them unique, and we added the X at the end of it. So that's why sometimes you'll see courses that have a P, and sometimes you'll see them that have an X, and that's because it's just the choice that the technical school made on their side whenever they pulled the course in and they set it up. Some technical schools will decide to use their P courses or their X courses for different representation. For example, maybe they use their X courses for dual credit classes, or something like that. But they don't have to do that. But that's sometimes that's an option. But that's what the course indicator basically is for. It's just to offer more variability for the technical school principals when it comes to setting up their master schedule. And then the fourth segment of numbers is actually the period location in which the course has been, the section has been set up. And then the last segment of numbers is the 2-digit section number, which is an arbitrary number that is given on the technical school side. So every 13-digit code in the catalog that you see is actually a unique number. So this is another visual example of a 13-digit course code broken down. 81 is representative of Christian CTC. Then we've got our 6-digit state course code. In this case, the course indicator is an X. And then we have it located in period 2A here in section 21. Okay, let's see. All right, so I'm gonna log into I'm actually logged into our Sandbox site, so I can kind of show you how these courses are, the actual course numbers are created. So let me go to one of these schools here. Okay, so let me go over to another area first. This is not a good example. Let me think. Sorry guys, hang on just a second. Okay, so 170167. So let me look that one up because I think that'll be a better example. Okay, so let's just say we're in the technical school side. Okay, and then we have the technical school. What they've done is they've actually pulled in a course. I'm not going to go through what all the technical school side does at this point, but I just want to share how the 13-digit course code is actually created. So the technical school pulls in a course from the course master, and then they set up a section, and when they add the section, then like I said, that triggers the KTS Data Exchange that night. So then this section shell, basically it's a shell of a section, will then sync over to the high school database into a special catalog. The high school will follow the directions, and I'll show you where those directions in are in a second, but they'll follow the directions to pull that course in and set it up correctly like we've talked about. So how is this 13-digit course code created? Remember what I said a second ago, the first segment is your Tech ID number. So whatever that Tech ID number is, that is what's going to actually be entered there. So I'm going to show you how the technical school side will actually decipher what that 13-digit course code is going to be for you guys. Because what we have found is that it is important for the technical school side, the technical school principal, to decipher these codes for you guys in advance. And when they provide you with the master schedule, they provide you with this, the course numbers along with it. That way the high school doesn't have to guess which numbers need to be pulled in. So what we know is the first two numbers are always the Tech ID number. So we're just going to say that in this case, the Tech ID number is going to be 60. So we know that both of these sections right here are going to start with a 60. Okay. The next segment of numbers, if we go back over here to this explanation, we know that this next group of numbers is the state course code. So going back over here, we know that the second group of numbers is going to be this state course code that's listed here, 170167. So 170167 for both of these sections so far, 170167. So far the numbers look the same, okay? In this case, there is not a letter at the end of this course number, so I know that the course indicator that comes over to the high school is going to be a P. Now, if this was if this was the technical school and they had an X at the end of the number, then the X would go in the place of the P. So far, like I said, both section numbers look exactly the same. So now we're actually, the next group of numbers in this makeup is actually going to be the technical school period number. So going back over here and looking at this view, the section view, I can see that the period location for this first section is going to be period 3. So for this first one, I'm going to put a 03. So if it's a 3, you would add a leading 0 there in the place of it. And then for this second section, it looks like it meets during period 6. So my period number would be 06. I would add that leading 0 there. So now I notice that my 13-digit course code is actually starting to be different at this point. And then the last group of numbers for this 13-digit code is that arbitrary section number on the technical school side. So if we go back over here to where we're trying to decipher this for our high school, It looks like the first section is it was actually given a number of 2. So we add the leading 0 and then 2. And then this second section is given a section number of 3. So 0, 3. So this is the 13-digit course code number that would actually sync to the high school tonight. For the high school would be able to pull this, look for this course master and pull it in the next morning. So whenever, if I'm a technical school principal, I'm going to supply the high school with this number so the high school can look for that number tomorrow. Any questions about how the 13-digit code comes about and what it consists of and all of that? Just keep in mind, if you're a high school person and you're receiving a master schedule from your technical school principal or administrative assistant, make sure that it has these 13-digit codes listed on that master schedule. It's important to make sure. If it doesn't, then reach out to them and ask them to provide those for you. If they struggle with providing those for you, reach out to me and I will help them figure out how to decipher these so they can provide them to you. Because we found that over the last 8 years of doing the KTS Data Exchange, that when the high schools do not know what these numbers are, it really causes a lot of issues. You're sitting over in the high school trying to guess basically which number you need in order to have things sync correctly. And by providing these numbers for you, that takes that guesswork out of it. Makes things run much smoother. Okay, so that's basically how the courses are created over there. So what I'm going to go to now is I want to show you what you would have to do to actually pull a course in from the high school side. So the next document that I'm going to reference is the KTS Course Setup Guide for High Schools. Okay. So we're going to open that, and I'm going to put you guys on mute for just a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I apologize for that. All right, so this course setup guide is specifically made for high school schedulers. So we're going to start going down through here and looking at this. The first part of this page talks about how what the KTS Data Exchange actually is. And then it goes into talking about the course codes and how they're made up. The document that we just looked at a little bit ago, it kind of talks about all of that. Sorry, my dogs are in here drinking. Stop. Apologize for that. Okay, so then it goes into the part where you're actually adding brand new courses and what you have to do. So from this point, The first thing that you would do on the high school side is you would connect to the KTS course catalog. So I'm going to show you what that looks like from this perspective. So let's just say this is my high school. I'm going to go to Index, System Administration, Resources, School. Now, if you're working at the high school and you do not have access to this part of Infinite Campus in your database, you need to reach out to your Infinite Campus system administrator, and they will be the ones that will have to switch the catalog for you. So I'm going to click on my high school, and so most of the time what will happen is you'll either see that the master catalog list is blank, or it will say like district catalog or high school catalog or something like that. What you need to do to pull these courses in is you need to point your all's catalog to the current year that we're working in, the 21-22 KTS course catalog for high schools only. You'll see it sitting there available for you. You'll select that, and then you'll hit Save School. Now, if you don't switch your catalog, you're not going to be able to pull the courses in that you need. You're not going to see them. You're not going to be able to pull them in correctly. So we're going to go ahead and save that. That's the first step. Okay, now, most of you high school people have been scheduling, some of you have been scheduling for the past 10 years with Infinite Campus, and you know the ins and outs of Infinite Campus. You've been working, you know how to, shortcuts and, different kinds of things. But what I want to say to you is I'd want you, when it comes to these courses for the KTS Data Exchange, I want you to forget all about that. I want you to not think about the shortcuts that you've learned, and I want you to just simply follow these directions to pull these courses in. And the reason why is because if you deviate from these directions and you go off and say, I know a better way, or I know a quicker way, or whatever, if you do that, then that's going to, you're going to disconnect the course from the KTS Data Exchange program. And when you do that, then nothing will sync. You'll get issues, you'll get errors. So that's why it's very important when you are pulling these courses in on the high school side is that you follow these directions exactly as they are. Okay, so now that we have actually switched the catalog, and like I said, if you do not have access to system administration, you will have to get with your Infinite Campus system admin to do this for you. And then once you finish pulling these courses in, then you will switch back to your district catalog or whatever. But these courses in this catalog should only be used for the KTS Data Exchange. Your high school should never use these courses for regular courses, for setting up for regular whatever that they do for their academic courses or whatever. Even if they see an English course sitting in there in our catalog, they still should never use it because it's going to be connected to the KTS Data Exchange. And when you do that, when you use these courses, they will sync student data. And so you don't want to use these courses for regular everyday scheduling because you're going to sync your student data to other schools across the state if you do that. Okay, so you have two options for loading new courses. You can either load, pull in a single course at a time, or you can pull in multiple courses as a group. So I'm going to show you, going back over here to my school, I've switched my catalog. So now I'm going to go to scheduling, add course. And when I do that, then my catalog comes up. And in my catalog, I see my 13-digit course codes. that are populating here. You'll notice that they start with 0, 0, and you'll be able to scroll down. This is a massive catalog, and it contains courses that will go all the way up to, like in this case, 88. But you'll see courses that, you know, have different, from different technical schools in here. But you only want to look for your courses. Now, you don't see 60 in here because this is a test site and we haven't had anything to sync or anything like that. So just keep in mind that you won't see normal courses in here because this, like I said, this is a test site. So we're just going to pretend we're gonna just use a course as an example. So I'm gonna go down through here and just pick, I don't know. I'm going to pick this Circuits 1 course. So let's just say this Circuits course that I'm pulling in now. What I would do is if I'm going to pull it in as a single course, I would highlight it and I would hit select this course. If I'm going to pull in multiples, I would click on the first one and I would either use my shift key or my control key to grab multiples, and then I would hit batch add these course masters. Okay, here's another really cool thing about this area. So let's say that you want to pull in courses that start with an 88, but you're up here, it starts at 0, 0. So you click anywhere in here and you start typing 88, and it automatically brings your cursor down to the courses that start with 88. So that's a really nice tool for you to use when you're pulling in, you know, when you're actually trying to locate your Tech ID number through all of this mess. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this course, hit select course master. So now that I have my course, my add course view here, now this is my opportunity to, I can modify my name if I'm updating my name and I need it updated for dual credit naming conventions. This is where I can do that. I can change my difficulty level if this is a dual credit course. If it's not, you know, I'll just make my proper selection here, whatever it is. Teaching method, I'll make sure I select whatever my teaching method is. Now, this is important for you on the high school side. If you are a high school person pulling these courses in, you need to make sure your instructional setting is set to offsite CTE. Even though it might pull in, whenever you try to pull it in, it says on-site classroom, you want to drop down and select offsite CTE. And the reason is because if you select offsite CTE, it will omit these 13-digit course codes from your lead reporting in your high school. You don't want them to be included in your lead reporting because we report them on the technical school side. So that's why you need to make sure they say offsite CTE. So now that I have that set up the way that I want it, I'm going to hit save, and it kind of flashes for me. So now I can go over here to search. I'm going to search for my course and section. And I can type in the number or whatever. And now I see my courses sitting here waiting for me to complete my setup. Now, before I complete my setup, let's just say that I'm trying to pull a course in. I know what my number is because the technical school principal or admin specialist provided that number for me. And we go to scheduling and add course, and I'm coming down through here and I don't see the number here. So here's my question. or here's my question that I need to ask first. First, I need to double check and make sure that the number that was provided to me by the technical school is correct. Second, I need to go and do a search in my database to see if the course is already sitting there, because if the course is already there, it disappears from the view here. So that's why you no longer see this course listed in this view, because it's already been pulled in. So those are some things for you to look at and remember that, you know, if you don't see the course here, check to see if it's already in your database, or double check the number with your technical school person to make sure that they've given you the correct number. Okay, so now that I have the number pulled in, and I've got a question, but I think I'm going to be answering your question by demonstrating the next part. So the question is, do we as high schools need to do anything with the boxes for terms, periods, etc., or is that just for ATCs? Good question. Yes, you're going to be setting up your course. So I'm going to show you what you're going to do from this point. So remember, this course on the high school side is actually one section on the technical school side. So you will add one section on the high school side. You will not ever add more than one section to these courses on the high school side, okay? It's important to remember that. So we're going to do add a section, and from here we give it our arbitrary number, whichever number you want to, but just remember that it can be no more than 2 numbers for a section. So you can have 1, 1, 1, or whatever, but if you do 3 or more numbers, it's not going to allow this course information to sync back to the technical school. So you want to make sure it's only 1 number. We have to fill in whatever is red here for highly qualified, and then from here we select our period location. So looking at this, and I see from the number here P01, this section is actually located in the technical school's first period. But let's say our first period is from 8 to 9, and our second period is from 9 to 10, but on the technical school side, their first period is 8:30 to 9:30. So it's different. What you do on your side when you select your section schedule placement is you try to place it as closest as you need to for your time frame when this course is being offered, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and say it's going to be offered during first period. If it overlaps and you want to include second in there, that's fine, but I'm just going to put this in my first period side on the high school side. And then once I have my section schedule placement in there, I'm going to hit create section. Okay, so now usually if what you do is you would add a primary teacher, but for these technical school courses on the high school side, you do not add a primary teacher. You do not need to go to the staff history tab. You do not need to add a teacher for these courses at all. It is not necessary. So that's one step you do not have to do, okay? So then what you would do after this is from here you can actually roster your students if you want to, or you know, actually that would be the next step, is to roster your students actually in the section. But if you don't have the roster of the students, then you would actually, the next step, and I'm going to go back over to this course setup guide. So what we've done here, we've actually pulled the course in, and step 2 is course section setup. We've created the one section. We have now, it's saying step 3 is scheduling students. And then step 4 is grade task setup. Okay, so now we're going to go back and we're going to finish up the setup of this course by going to the grading task tab, because the grading task tab has to be set up in order to allow for the grades to sync. So the course masters allow the student information to sync, but the grading task allow for the grades to sync. So if you don't have your grading task set up on the high school side, you're not going to receive grades. So let's kind of go over what the grading tasks are. The grading tasks for the KTS Data Exchange, you're going to see a CTE Term Grade, a CTE Final Grade, and then we also have a CTE Final Exam Grade that you'll see populating and available. So let me explain what these are. The CTE Term Grade, don't think of it as a term grade. Think of it as an in-progress grade. This is an in-progress grade. The technical school should have their teachers posting to the CTE Term Grade at least once a week. This will allow you at the high school side to have a fresh grade that's continuously being populated for that CTE Term Grade. It allows you to have that fresh grade so you know how the kid is progressing in the course. You can use that CTE Term Grade for progress reports. You can use it for report cards. You can use it for athletic and activity eligibility. This CTE Term Grade is a continuously evolving grade that you're going to be receiving. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this CTE Term Grade up to allow that grade to sync to us. So the first thing I need to do is select my score group. What is your score group going to be? The CTE numeric score group is the score group that usually is used when syncing for the KTS Data Exchange. However, if you have another score group in your district, you can use it as long as it matches the CTE numeric score group on the minimum value column. So let me show you what that means. So I'm going to go back to the index. I'm going to go to gradings and standards. I'm going to select, excuse me. I'm going to select score groups and rubrics. And now I'm going to look at the CTE numeric score group. This is important, especially if it's ESTL, because I don't think you've had an opportunity to decide which score group you're going to use, or to set up your CTE numeric score groups properly. So it's important to make sure they're set up the way that you need to set them up, or else you're not going to have grades that are going to sync correctly, and you're not going to have grades that are going to post to your transcripts correctly. So what you need to make sure of is that, first of all, if you're going to use the CTE numeric score group, that the GPA value and GPA unweighted value columns are filled in. I think when they sync to you, they're blank. So you have to make sure those are filled in, because if you don't fill those in when you post to transcripts, the GPA values are not going to be added to those transcript records. So that's something that you all need to add to your list of things that you need to do at ESTL, especially, is to make sure your GPA values and unweighted value columns are complete. Additionally, if you want, you have the ability to decide if you want to update the score name and the score and the name. So for example, if you want to add letter grades, you can do that here. You can update the CTE numeric score group to add your letter grades to correspond with your numeric values. What you can also do is update your passing score. So if your passing score is a little different at your high school, if your passing score, let's say, is 65, then you can go down through here and uncheck those boxes to correspond with whatever your passing score is according to your all's policies. What you do not want to change or touch at all is the minimum value column, because when scores actually sync from the technical school to the high school, it matches, the database actually looks at this minimum value column and it matches the score from the minimum value column and it gives it a corresponding score name. So if you adjust this, make any type of adjustments here, it's going to cause some issues. So leave the minimum value column alone. One additional thing about the CTE numeric score group, and I'm going to scroll all the way down so you can see, you cannot have more than one definition per score. So I've left this here as an example. So if you have a student that brings a 0 grade, the database is going to look at this minimum value column and it's going to say, wow, okay, I've got this kid that has a score of 0, but the score group that I need to match on has 3 options for the 0 minimum value. So which score name do I give to this score? I don't know what it's going to be, because what it needs to be, because I have 3 definitions. So what you would need to do is decide what you want your 0 definition to be called and delete the rest of them. If you have multiple zeros in there, just go ahead and get rid of the additional definitions so you only have 1 definition for 0 in your score group. So that is the CTE numeric. Another option that you have is if you already have a district score group that you like to use, you can use it as long as its minimum value column matches this CTE numeric minimum value column. So if you already have one in your district that's named something else, you can use it as long as it's the same minimum value. Questions about your score group? I know that's a lot of information that I just gave you guys about score groups, but it's important for you to remember that. If you don't have your score group set up correctly, then it's going to cause grade sync issues. Okay, so going back over to my course, my grading task. Okay, I got a question. Okay, so the question is, since we've used the CTE with Madison County ATC, it should be set for Estill. That's fine. If you want to use the same one and you've been working with the KTS Data Exchange, it should be set for Estill. That is correct. Then you should not have any problems. I think the only school that might need to do this is actually Estill County. Okay. All right, so we're back to our CTE term grade. So we select our score group. It's always pre-populated here, but you can change it, like I said. For your term GPA, this is where you would, if you wanted to add a multiplier for your GPA, you can do that here. This is actually used for AB honor roll purposes, but this is, an option for you. You can use this box optionally. You do not put a credit value here. You don't have to worry about credits for the CTE term grade, because remember, the CTE term grade is your in progress grade. But what you do have to do is designate the term mask to indicate how often is this course being offered throughout the year. So I know these kids are actually going to be in this course all year long, so I'm going to go ahead and select terms 1, 2, 3, and 4. You don't have to worry about clicking this post only grading task box, because you're not going to have teachers in your high school actually calculating grades in their grade book. This grade that's coming to you is going to be a grade that's already calculated, and it's just syncing to you. So you don't have to do anything else as far as your CTE term grade goes. You're good. So I'm going to save that. And then you'll get this message. Do you no longer receive updates pushed from the course master? Do you want to continue? Okay. Yes, I do want to continue. Okay, so then my next grading task that I'm going to set up is my CTE final grade. Now this is the one where I am giving my students a final grade for the course. That's what's syncing to me is a final grade. Remember that grade is already composited and already calculated. You're just getting the posted grade. So once again, you select your score group. You don't have to worry about the term GPA for the final grade. Credit value, you do have to select a credit value. Credit type, I need to make sure I don't have a credit type here. I need to go in through here and fix that. Let me fix that really quick so I can show you all the correct example. Preferences, I'm trying to remember where it is. They move things around. System preferences, maybe? No, that's not it. Maybe it's under gradings and standards. No, I can't remember where it is. When you don't go to something so much, I know it's not under school. Maybe they moved it under here. School standards, grading task, credit groups. Maybe that's it. No, that's not it either. Okay, I can't remember where it is. I'm on the spot, so I can't. I'll find it later. But anyways, like I said, you will have a designated credit list that will be here for you when you update this on your high school side. So no worries about that. But you will have to have a credit value entered here, and you will have to select a credit type. If you don't have one or the other or both, the final grade that is syncing to you will not post on your transcripts when you run your transcript post tool. So you have to make sure those are there. For the term mask, you want to make sure you designate when you want that posted grade to sync to you, that final posted grade to sync to you. I want it to sync at the end of term 4. But let's say that my technical school wants to send me a half a credit at the end of term 2 and a half a credit at the end of term 4, then that's how I would set that up. So it just depends on, you'll have to work with your technical school contact to find out what their preferences are as far as awarding credits. But if it's just a credit at the end of the year, you'd give it 1 credit and then select the final term box. So now I'm going to save that, and I get this message again, okay. And that's all I do on the high school side. I do not have to set up my grade calc options because, like I said before, the grades you're receiving are already calculated, they're already composited. So you don't have to worry about the grade calc options. So now that my course is finished being set up, this is what, it would look like. If I want to add a teacher's name here for a teacher display name for the report card, I can do that. This will print off on report cards, but remember, like I said, I don't have to add a primary teacher to the staff history tab here. Questions about setting up a whole course? Any type of questions about that? Okay, so once I have my course set up, once I have my students rostered into the course, I don't have any students rostered in this particular one, but let's go back over to this one. I have my students rostered into the course. Whatever demographic information they have here, whatever flags, whatever, here's a legal flag right here, whatever health flags, any type of information here will sync over to the technical school tonight. And the next morning, the technical school will open up their database and they will go into their section and see their student rostered. So back on this database, back on this directions, we've completed step 4. Now the next set of instructions talks about updating previous year courses. So if you have a technical school that has rolled their courses forward and they're reusing most of their courses for the next school year, then all you'll have to do is go through and touch them just to make sure that they're set up correctly for your next school year. So you'll take a look at the course tab, make sure all this is still accurate. You'll go to the section, make sure that the section schedule placement is the same. If the teacher has, or if the technical school principal has moved the sections around to different locations, you'll have to make those adjustments. And then save. And then what you'll do is roster the students into the course, and then you will make sure that your grading tasks are updated accordingly. Now, if your grading tasks are not updated correctly and school starts and you don't have grades syncing to you at the high school, you know, make sure that you remember, oh, I forgot to set my grading tasks up. So that could cause your grades not to sync. Going back over to the KTS Data Exchange webpage, there is a document for you that you can refer to if you're having grade sync troubleshooting problems. I'm going to open that one in just a second, but what I first of all want to guide you to the Data Exchange User Group Setup document. If you're a new school, especially a new high school that is just starting brand new with the KTS Data Exchange, I want you to make sure you print this off or forward it to your Infinite Campus system administrator in your district so they can add you to the KTS Data Exchange user group. If you're not a part of that user group, you're not going to see error messages. Error messages will actually populate for you when you log into your Infinite Campus underneath the process alert area of your Infinite Campus. And if you're not a part of that user group, you're not going to see error messages populating here for you. So it's important to make sure that you're added to that user group. So that'll help you be able to weed through your any kind of grade syncing issues. So this grade sync troubleshooting guide, it's a short document that takes you and your technical school through steps, processes to check each database to see if what the issue might be for your grade syncing, for reasons why your grades are not syncing. It tells you to look at your process alert area. It tells you to run grade reports on both sides. And then it also talks about making sure that your grading tasks are set up correctly and that your grading windows are set up correctly. That's the last thing that we're going to talk about today is grading windows. If your grading windows are not set up, then your grades are not going to sync. So what I want you to think about when we talk about grading windows, the grading window tool is actually located under Gradings and Standards. grading window. So I want you to think about the grade as a bird that is trying to fly from the technical school to the high school. It's a pigeon. It's got all the grades. The pigeon has all the grades attached to its little, I don't know, wing or whatever. And it's the technical school is letting that pigeon go, and it's letting it fly out of their window on the technical school side. And in order for the high school to allow that pigeon to come into their school to receive those grades, you have to open up your window and let that pigeon come in. So it's important to make sure that your grading windows are set up correctly. First thing, you cannot have multiple terms open per grading task. So for example, I would not have quarter 3 and quarter 4 both open actively, because if I do that, it confuses the database and I will not receive grades. I'll get an error. So just remember, you can only have one grading window for each term turned on. So you can have only one term per grading window turned on actively. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you're setting these up, you can only select all grades. You can't go in and designate specific grades because that will create an issue too. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new schedule. I'm going to hit edit. And I'm going to hit add. And I'm going to go down through here. I'm a 4-term school and I'm going to select my school, Hogwarts. And I've got one other step here. I have to select the term. So I'm going to select for term 4. Okay, next. Now I've got my green mark checkbox. Now it's next. Now, because this is a test site and because it's the middle of the summer, I'm going to receive little errors or little alerts that are going to pop up here telling me I'm outside of my calendar. But you should not receive that when you're setting things up for yourself. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. So let's say I'm going to open this up for today. So I'm double clicking on that here. I've got my little alerts popping up. And I'm going to have this window open until Friday. Okay. Next. Now this is where I'm talking about the grade levels. Make sure that bullet for all grade levels is selected. You do not want to go down through here and check these boxes for our specific purposes for the KTS Data Exchange, because the program, the way that the program is written, it will not recognize specific grade levels. And what'll happen is it'll look like your grading window is set up and everything. You won't get an error, but you won't receive grades. And so you're sitting here racking your brain trying to figure out why your grades aren't syncing. And it's actually because you've selected your specific grade levels on your grading tasks. Your grading window. So we need to make sure all grade levels are selected. And next. And now it's asking me for which term do I want, which grading task do I want this schedule. And I'm going to do it for my CTE Term Grade. And save. So now it's saved, and now I'm going to go back to my grading window. And what I see is, oops, I've got 2 grading windows open at the same time. I don't want that. So I'm going to click on my quarter 3, and I'm going to select the one that's open, the quarter 3 one that's open, and I'm going to hit close now. Okay, and that's closed. So now that's closed, and now I only have 1 open at the time, 1 active. So now tonight, as long as the technical school has their grading window open, I should receive grades now. My little pigeon is going to fly into my window and bring me my grades. Questions about the grading window? Going back over to the GradeSync troubleshooting guide, this goes into more detail about the grading window, like things for you to keep in mind when it comes to the grading window and your terms and things like that. It's to be expected that your terms at the high school, your term dates at the high school will not perfectly match the term dates that are at the technical school, and that's okay. They don't have to, but they're, you know, you have to keep those things into consideration when you're trying to sync grades. So if, for example, if the technical school's quarter one ends on October 1st, but your quarter one ends on October 8th, then, you know, you need to communicate with the technical school what your term dates are so they know, you know, so you all can talk about how to maybe leave this open to allow for quarter one grades to sync a little longer or fluctuate back and forth or whatever. So those are conversations that you need to have with your technical school person. You need to provide them with your term dates so they know how to adjust their grading windows. Questions, guys? Any kind of questions? Going back over to the KTS Data Exchange webpage, there's more information here for you. If you, under user resources, this is a really good tool for you. Under user resources, you want to look for the technical student ad hoc query. You can create this query to your account